Hello, my name is Lauren, and I am working alongside Michaela and Savannah to do our culture presentation, which we have chosen to talk about the Latino and Hispanic culture within counseling. Some pre and post-test questions that we hope to answer throughout our presentation are: how do cultural artifacts like food, music, or art reflect the values of the Latino culture? How is the Latino culture and identity shaped by their cultural background and generational traditions? How does discrimination and false stereotypes impact the Latino individuals through their mental health and their access to therapeutic services? And similar to that, in what ways do language barriers, cost, and lack of cultural competence within the therapeutic field affect access to mental health care for Latino populations? And our last one is, what are the ways in which a culturally competent counselor would benefit the Latino community within the mental health setting? But on a broader aspect, how does a cultural competent counselor benefit um, any community within America's borders? Oh, sorry. So I will start us off with the overview and the core concepts. The Latino and Hispanic community makes up roughly around 19% of the US population, and that would be about 60 million people. And it is the fastest growing ethnic group in the United States, with many of this ethnic group residing in southern states. About 60% of the Latinos come from Mexican descent, and as the pie chart shows, Mexican descent is an overwhelming majority, with Dominican at 2%, Honduran at 2%, Cuban at 2%, and then Mexican being, the overwhelming majority. The community has high rates of multicultural households, which just means that many generations live in one household and family interdependence. Instead of working for oneself, it is taught in this community that you work for your family. The median age compared to America is 8 years younger, so 30 compared to 38, and healthcare access is a large concern in this community based on language and insurance barriers. Within the Latino and Hispanic community, members are taught, as I said, that family is the central priority. I'm sorry, I'm going to mess this one up, but familisimo is a term reflecting loyalty, interconnectedness, and prioritizing the family needs over individual desires. Respecto, meaning that they have respect for older relatives, their elders, is very important within this community. And collectivism is a crucial part, which goes to our first point again, of the community placing a high importance on the role of the family rather than individual success. And this feeling of collectivism is different than America's view overall, where American people tend to be more individualistic and do things for their individual gain compared to a collective gain. The history of the Latino community within America, I put this into four separate parts, starting in late 1700, early 1800s, and then moving into modern development for today. Starting as early settlers, many Spanish settlers established homes in California, New Mexico, Texas, and Florida, and many of these people came and settled before these states were recognized as states, and they were just territories. Or they were Mexican, they were already Mexican territory when they moved here. Many settlers and migrants became U.S. citizens without migrating because of the Mexican-American War and the Treaty of Guadalupe. It led many Mexican Americans to become American citizens overnight because of the new line of where Mexico and the United States was. So then starting the expansion and migration, population rises because of job opportunities in farming, railroads, and mining. So this was late 1800s, early 1900s. And the Latino population became a key part in Southwest economy. The Mexican Revolution also led many to migrate to the United States. So political unrest within Mexico and unjust leaders led them to come here instead for better opportunities. The Great Depression also led many Mexican Americans to be deported without due process, and due process was put into place far before this. But unfortunately, because of the Great Depression and because of the panic of the Great Depression, many people were sent back, even if they did have American status. Civil rights, so we're getting into the 1900s. Many Mexican men came to America on temporary visas to work in the war efforts during World War II. And at the same time that Black Americans were fighting for equal pay and treatment, the Latinos were doing the same. So an example would be the Chicano movement. This spread and promoted social justice, pride, and equality. Modern development, so that's now the 1980s to about right now. Rapid growth is continuing throughout the United States today. As I said, it was the fastest ethnic growing group here. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 gave legal status to millions, and the Latino influence has continued to spread the United States through food, music, and traditions, which I will get into now. So key artifacts in the Latino and Hispanic culture. Roughly 60% of Latinos in the United States are of Mexican origin and descent, which I've said. So Mexican culture and cuisine makes up a significant portion of traditional foods found within the Latino culture in America. And many of these traditional foods have been adapted in the United States and often incorporating different ingredients and different flavors, more geared to American cuisine. So a lot of those dishes, of course, would be like tacos, burritos, tamales. Some desserts would be churros. Some other traditional meals and snacks of the area. So Guatemalan dishes would be, I'm going to have a really hard time pronouncing these and I apologize, but pepin de pollo, so a lot of chicken dishes, hilachas, and revolcado. And I will say that a lot of these going down the list are chicken dishes and rice dishes, a lot of things that are seasoned in a way to make them have seasonings from where they came from. So a lot of these are also celebratory dishes. So for celebrations, for religious holidays, this is what they would have. So Caribbean dishes, fried conch because they are closer to the ocean, and jerk chicken. And then Puerto Rican dishes such as mofongo, which are plantains, and it'd be a rice dish as well, and pollo guisado. Some traditional art and music, so especially from Mexico, mariachi bands, which are played for big events, salsa music and salsa dancing from the Caribbean, and Afro Latin drumming from Puerto Rico. So different types of music and dance. For art, we have Mexican folk art, which I put some down here below. So muralism is also big in this community. So murals on walls and on buildings, depicting history, cultural, and political expressions, just big and bold. And then others would be textiles and pottery, so popular within the indigenous Mexican families, which we'll talk about the indigenous culture within the Latino culture later on. but they go hand in hand a lot of times. And below are different types of art and different types of art expression, such as dance, to go with that. Their religion and spirituality is very popular and important within the Latino community. I have a quote here from one of the articles I read saying religion and spirituality are shaped by and embedded within cultural norms. So that's for any um, religion and culture, but especially within the Latino community. Spanish colonization has led many lasting impacts on religion in the Latino community by introducing Catholicism into this community, and this has continued to be the largest and most influential religion within the Latino community, with that picture down below being about 68% identify with being Catholic. Along with Catholicism, indigenous spiritual traditions have blended deeply, creating a unique religious expression in the Latino community. So that's how they go hand in hand within the art and the music and within spirituality. This blend can be seen in the community where they observe all the things from Christian beliefs. They pray the rosary, so through Catholicism, they honor the Virgin Mary, and they praise saints and spirits of indigenous traditions. And faith obligations coincide with cultural and family traditions. Church services and activities are often seen as like family-centered events, so that's where that community piece comes in. And I've also read a lot that the meals on Sunday services or the meals after a service are equally as important for that family aspect in this community. And cultural values are reinforced through religious practices. So again, seeing each other on Sundays or whenever their services are, reinforcing those values of family, of community through their religious practices. And their expressions of faith, traditions, and celebrations. So celebrations like Dia de los Reyes, it is similar to our Christmas time. It happens in January, where it honors the three wise men of the Christmas story. Another celebration would be celebrating Dia de los Muertos, which is to honor and to remember the loved ones that have passed on. They celebrate milestones such as baptisms, first communions, which are a really big deal within the Catholic Church for children or anyone of any age to do their first communion within the church. And quinceañeras are celebrated as faith-centered life events that the family gets together for. And they observe novenas, which is the 9 days of prayer for like special prayers of healing or devotions. It either is for a saint or it's for a big prayer that they really want to get answered. They would gather the community and pray together for 9 days. So these were traditions and celebrations that happen every once in a while, but some daily religious practices of the Latino community would be home altars for Mother Mary and Jesus are set up within many Catholic homes. Wearing or carrying religious items, so like rosaries, any types of metal. Rosaries are more popular. You see those more often. Lighting household candles for loved ones that have passed or for Mother Mary, and then praying in community and with family members. So down below are different traditions and celebrations, and also there's the rosary, there's the candles for daily religious practices.
Hi, I'm Michaela McKnight, and for this presentation, I'll be focusing on Latino identity, oppression, and wellness. For this slide, I'm focusing on how Latino identity is complex and made up of multiple layers. The article explains that Latino identity includes national origin, race, language, cultural values, and pan-ethnic labels like Latino or Hispanic. So instead of being one single identity, it's really a combination of many different factors. This connects to Sue and Sue's addressing model, which shows how different parts of identity, like ethnicity, language, and culture, all overlap and shape a person's experience. The article also talks about how labels like Latino are often socially constructed and sometimes even imposed on people. This connects to the racial cultural identity development model, which explains how individuals either accept or resist those labels over time. For example, someone might initially accept the label Hispanic, but later choose to identify more strongly with their specific background, like Mexican or Puerto Rican, especially if they experience discrimination. Overall, this slide shows that identity is not fixed. It's shaped by both personal meaning and social experiences. This slide focuses on how Latino identity is shaped by experiences like acculturation, discrimination, and family influence. First, acculturation refers to how individuals adapt to a new culture. Sue and Sue describe 4 outcomes: assimilation, separation, marginalization, and integration. Out of these, biculturalism, being able to balance both cultures, is considered the healthiest. The article supports this by showing that many Latinos successfully navigate both cultures, especially through bilingualism and adapting across generations. Next, rationalization and discrimination also play a big role. Latinos are often racially categorized in inconsistent ways, which can lead to confusion, bias, and colorism. This connects to Sue and Sue's discussion of social, political oppression and identity development stages. Lastly, family and community are central. Latino culture often emphasizes familism, respect, and strong community ties. These values shape identity across different environments like home, school, and society. So overall, identity is not just personal, it's shaped by culture, environment, and lived-in experiences. This slide looks at stereotypes and discrimination, especially how they impact Latina individuals. Sue and Sue explains that stereotypes are like mental shortcuts, but they can distort how we see others, lead to discrimination. The article Growing Up Latina in U.S. gives specific examples of controlling images like the hot Latina or submissive women. These stereotypes are harmful because they sexualize Latina girls and limit how they are perceived in school and society. The Frontiers article expands on this by showing how stereotypes, and not just individual, they're built into institutions like schools and healthcare and workplaces. When it comes to discrimination, Sue and Sue describe it as the behavioral expression of prejudice. It can lead to stress, lower well-being, and barriers in education and employment. Latina girls often experience this through things like lower academic expectations, harsher discipline, and sexualized treatment. So overall, stereotypes and discrimination don't just affect how others see Latinas, they also shape their opportunities and self-concept. This slide focuses on how power, oppression, and privilege play a role in society. Sue and Sue define oppression as the misuse of power that is built into systems like laws, institutions, and social norms. It's not just about individual actions, it's systematic. The Growing Up Latina article shows how controlling images are used to regulate behavior and reinforce both gender and racial expectations. The Frontiers article also emphasizes that power is embedded in institutions and influences who gets opportunities, who is believed, and who is protected. On the other hand, privilege refers to unearned advantages that certain groups have. These advantages also often go unnoticed by those who have them. For example, privileged groups are less likely to experience stereotypes, discrimination, or bias, while Latino women often face multiple layers of disadvantage. So this slide highlights how inequality is maintained through both visible and invisible systems of power. This slide focuses on 3 experiences: marginalization, microaggressions, and violence. Marginalization refers to being excluded from full participation in society. This can show up as an underrepresentation, limited opportunities, or even punishment for cultural expression, like speaking Spanish. Microaggressions are everyday comments or behaviors that may seem small but are actually harmful. Examples include asking, "Where are you really from?" or making assumptions about immigration status. Sue and Sue explain that even though these actions are often unintentional, they can lead to stress, anxiety, and what's called racial battle fatigue. Lastly, violence can be physical, psychological, or structural. The article highlights how Latina women are especially vulnerable to sexualized violence due to stereotypes. The Frontiers article also expands this by showing that violence can also exist at an institutional level, such as biased policing or exclusional policies. So overall, these experiences show how systematic inequality impacts daily life. This slide focuses on how culture can positively impact health and wellness. The JAMA article highlights that family community are really important in Latino culture. These strong relationships help reduce stress and provide emotional support. It also explains that cultural pride and identity improve mental health. When people stay connected to their culture, language, and traditions, they often feel a strong sense of belonging and confidence. Another key point is traditional diet and lifestyle. Traditional Latino diets are often healthier, and moving away from them can increase health risks. This connects to Sue and Sue because they talk about collectivism, meaning people rely on family, community, and rather than just themselves. They also highlight cultural values like familyism and respect, which help people cope with stress. Overall, culture can act as a protective factor for both mental and physical health. This slide focuses on how systems and policies impact health. The JAMA article explains that immigration policies and negativity can create fear and stress, which affects both mental and physical health. It also points out barriers to healthcare like lack of insurance or not having culturally understanding providers. Another major factor is poverty, which limits access to healthy food, safe environments, and medical care. Sue and Sue connect this to the structural oppression, meaning systems in society can limit opportunities for certain groups. They also discuss institutional racism, which can affect how people are treated in healthcare and lead to mistrust. Overall, these systems shape who has access to care and who experiences more health challenges. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to my slide on professional guide and ethical mandate for social justice. This slide will mainly focus on ethical responsibility counselors have towards social justice. Across all major counseling organizations, there is clear expectations that counselors go beyond just providing therapy. The ACA Code of Ethics identifies justice as a core principle. This means counselors must make sure their work is fair, unbiased, and accessible to all clients, especially those from marginalized groups. The NBCC Code of Ethics builds on this by emphasizing access and equality. It states that counselors should advocate for extended resources in underserved communities, which includes people affected by poverty, discrimination, and a lack of healthcare. The APA Multicultural Guide takes a broader approach by focusing on Semitic issues. This means counselors should recognize how larger systems like healthcare, education, and policy can create barriers for clients. Finally, there's the MSJCC framework. It is especially important because it combines multicultural competence with social justice. It encourages counselors to understand power, privilege, and oppression and how those factors can go on to impact clients' lives. Moving on to our next slide, this slide is going to focus on the idea that counselors are not just therapists, but they're also advocates and change agents. Beyond therapy means we don't just sit in a room and talk with clients. That's not what we do. We also help clients deal with real world barriers like not having insurance, not speaking English fluently, experiencing discrimination, advocacy happening on multiple levels. There's the micro level, which is like your direct help with a client. This is like finding resources to help with language barriers, or even helping them fill out paperwork when maybe they don't understand some of the English words on it. Their meso level, which is working with schools or communities, like advocating for a child who's being bullied in the school system. I'm so sorry about my cat. There is the macro level, which is like, this is your large change, like supporting policies that improve access to care, or even reaching out to state officials for topics you feel strongly about. And then there's the ACA and NBCC Code of Ethics clearly say that counselors have a responsibility to society, not just to individuals. For example, if a client cannot afford therapy, it is our job to help them find low cost or free resources to assist them. If discrimination is affecting their mental health, we should acknowledge it and help them respond to it. Overall, counselors play a role in reducing inequality, not just treating symptoms. Our job is not just to sit there and listen to what is happening in their life, it is to work with them to help find solutions so that they can live healthier lives within the system that they now live in. And then moving on to our next slide, it's important to note that whenever you're working with a culture not your own, to be able to effectively work with them, it is important to understand key cultural values. No one expects you to be an expert on a culture that you didn't grow up in, but there are a few things that you can do to ensure that you're able to provide the best care, and one of those things is understanding key cultural values. In the case of this paper, who is covering Hispanic and Latino clients, some important terms are as follows. First, we have familiosmo, which means family is extremely important. Clients may rely heavily on their family for support. It can be helpful to include family members in treatment when it's appropriate. Second is personomo, and I'm so sorry, I am not good at Spanish. Personal Ilismo, and confidence, which focuses on warm, trusting relationships. Clients might not open up right away. Building trust is essential before deeper work can happen. Third is respeto, which refers to respect for authority and elders. Counselors should be mindful of tone, language, and professionalism. Language is also another major factor. Many Hispanics clients prefer to speak Spanish. Language barriers can lead to misunderstandings, misdiagnosis, lower treatment success, and because of all of this, counselors should use interpreters when needed. They should simplify language or even identify and provide bilingual services. Overall, understanding these cultural values helps build stronger relationships and more effective treatment. Moving on, I want to take a moment to kind of cover some background on our case study, which there will be a role play recording of at the end of this presentation. This case study is focusing on Jose and Maria. They're a married Hispanic couple who have been together for about 15 years, and they recently moved to a new community in the United States with their 10-year-old son, Carlos. Since they've relocated, they've had a really hard time adjusting and feeling disconnected from their support systems. Jose reports increased stress and anxiety, most related to work and financial pressure. He's also having a hard time fitting in at work, often feeling like he is the blunt of a joke or that he's going to get fired for his inability to fully understand his coworkers. Maria reports feeling extremely isolated and sad, especially leaving behind extended family and familiar cultural support. She's having a hard time finding the willingness to go out in the community where she's scared to ask for help, and she'd rather simply stay home than risk embarrassing herself. Their son Carlos, who will not be present during the therapy session, is also struggling, particularly in school, where he may be experiencing bullying and other social challenges. Overall, the family is dealing with both emotional stress and difficulty adapting to their new environment. Moving on to our next slide, after everything you heard in the last, it should be pretty clear that the family is facing several overlapping challenges that are impacting their mental health and their daily functioning within their new community. One of their biggest barriers is language, which makes it difficult to access services, communicate with their school and new community, and fully understand available resources. They are also experiencing acclimation stress as they adjust to a new culture, which can create both emotional strain and identity conflict. Discrimination and microaggressions may also play a role, contributing to feelings of anxiety, isolation, and stress. On top of that, financial strain and job instability can increase pressure on the family and limit their access to care even further. These challenges also affect the family system. The parents are experiencing stress in their relationships, and their child is struggling both academically and socially, likely due to language barriers and adjustment difficulties. Additionally, the loss of extended family support removes an important source of stability and support from their lives. Finally, there are several systematic barriers, including limited access to mental health services, a lack of community competence providers, and possibly immigration related fears. The family may also be unfamiliar with how to navigate healthcare and school systems within the United States. Moving on, when working with a family like this, the first priority is building trust and creating cultural, responsive environment. This includes showing warmth, respect, and taking the time to build a strong relationship with aligns with the client's values, some of which we talked about earlier. It's also important to address language needs by using bilingual services when possible or simplifying communication to ensure understanding. Family involvement is another key part of treatment. Because familiosmo is such an important value, including family members in sessions can strengthen support and improve overall outcomes. In terms of therapeutic approaches, cognitive behavioral therapy, or commonly known as CBT, can be helpful for addressing anxiety and stress while also being adapted to fit the client's cultural background. Narrative techniques can also be used to allow clients to process their migration experience and reframe their stories in a more empowering way. Finally, there's advocacy. It is a major part of the counselor's role. This includes helping the family connect to community resources, supporting communication with their child's school, and addressing other systemic barriers like language access and discrimination. Before we move on to the case study, I want to end this by saying the goal of counseling for families, or this family in particular, is not just about symptom reduction, but overall improvement in function and well being. In short terms, we want to reduce Jose's anxiety and Maria's depression symptoms while also improving communication within the family. Strengthening their sense of cultural identity and belonging is also important, especially as they adjust to a new environment. Through counseling and advocacy, this family can develop stronger coping skills and begin to feel more comfortable navigating systems like healthcare and education. Their child would ideally show improvement in school, both academically and socially as well. In long term, we expect to see the increased emotional stability, stronger family connections, and a greater sense of empowerment overall. By connecting them with resources and supporting systems, the goal is for them to continue thriving even after counseling ends. And then these are our references.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I will be playing the counselor. Okay.
I will be Maria.
And I'll be Jose.
Okay. Hi, I'm really glad you both came in today. I know moving somewhere new can be a big adjustment, so I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I want this to be a space where you can both talk openly about what's been going on. Where would you like to start?
I can start. I just feel really alone. Back home, I've always had a family around, my mom, my sisters, everyone. There was always someone to go see and talk to. I had all my family around. Here, it's just really quiet. I don't know who to talk to anymore, and I feel like I don't belong.
Yeah, it's been hard for both of us. For me, it's more stress. I feel like everything is on me right now, work, money, trying to make sure we're okay. I don't really get a break from it. We moved here in hopes of things being easier for us, but so far I feel like it was just all a mistake.
It sounds like you're both dealing with a lot, just in different ways. Maria, you're feeling really isolated and missing the connection you had with your family. And you, Jose, you're feeling a lot of pressure to hold everything together.
Yeah, and even the small things are hard, like going to the store or talking to people. Sometimes I don't understand everything, and I feel embarrassed asking, so I just avoid it. I would never do that back home. The idea of staying home because I'm embarrassed has never happened to me before.
Same with me at work sometimes. I understand enough, but not everything, and I feel like people notice that. Like I don't fully fit in. I'm too worried that I'll do something and make a fool of myself or even get fired.
Yeah, it's like people look at you differently. Maybe they don't say anything directly, but you can feel it. I just feel like everyone looks at us and thinks we don't belong. I don't think anybody thinks that I belong, but I can't help but feel that way.
That sounds really uncomfortable. Feeling like you don't fully belong or that you're being seen differently can be really stressful, especially when you're already adjusting to so much.
Yeah, and sometimes people do say things, not always directly, but comments, like jokes. I try to ignore it, but it still bothers me.
I'm really glad you shared that. Experiences like that can build up over time and have a real impact, even if you're trying to push them aside.
It just makes everything harder. Like we don't have a place here.
The feeling of not having a place can be really heavy, especially when you've left behind a place where you did feel connected.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm supposed to fix it. Like I should be able to make things better for us, but I don't know how.
That sounds like a lot of responsibility to carry. When you say you feel like you're supposed to fix everything, what does that mean to you?
Like I should be making more money or helping us feel more settled. I just feel like I'm not doing enough.
But you are doing a lot, and you work all the time, and I can see that.
I know, but it doesn't feel like enough.
It sounds like there's a really strong expectation you're putting on yourself. Let's pause for a second. What are some things you are doing right to support your family?
I mean, I am working every day. I'm trying to make things better for us.
Right, you're showing up every day, working hard, and trying to support your family. That, to me, shows that you're committed, even if it doesn't feel like that right now.
I guess. I just don't really think about it like that.
That's really common. When stress builds up, it's easy for our thoughts to focus on what's going wrong instead of what we're doing well. Maria, when you're feeling alone during the day, what does that usually look like for you?
I stay home a lot. I don't really have anywhere to go, and I don't go anywhere unless I have to. I don't want to deal with not understanding people or feeling awkward, so I just stay in.
Yeah, she doesn't really go out much anymore.
I just feel stuck, like I don't know how to start over here.
That makes a lot of sense. Starting over in a new place when without your usual support system is really hard, especially when you feel like communication is such a big barrier. What do you most what do you most miss about back home?
My family, just being able to talk to people easily, feeling comfortable, not having to think so hard about everything.
Yeah, and just feeling like you belong, like you're a part of something.
The sense of belonging is really important, and losing that can affect a lot of different areas of your life. One thing we can work on together is finding ways to rebuild the sense of connection here, and even if it looks a little bit different than it did before.
I'd like that. I just don't know where to start.
And that's completely okay. You don't have to figure this out on your own. There are community groups and services that are Spanish speaking and more familiar with your culture, and those can be a really good place to start meeting people and feel more comfortable.
We didn't really know that existed.
Yeah, that would make it easier.
We can go over some of those options together, and we can also work on ways for the two of you to support each other more during this time.
Yeah, we haven't really been talking about how we feel.
I don't want to make things worse, so I just keep it to myself.
That makes sense, but it can also leave both of you feeling more alone. Sometimes sharing, even a little bit, can help you feel more connected and supported. What do you think it would be like to check in with each other, even if just for a few minutes each day? It doesn't have to be anything big, just taking a little time to share how you're feeling and listening to each other.
I think that would help. We just haven't been doing it. By the time I get home, I'm tired, and I think we both just kind of shut down and started talking.
Yeah, I think we need that. Even just talking a little more would probably help me not feel so alone during the day.
That makes a lot of sense. Small moments like that can really help you feel more connected, especially when everything else feels overwhelming. It's something we can slowly build into your routine in a way that feels manageable for both of you. I also want to make sure we're thinking about your son as well. How has he been adjusting to everything? Schools, friends, the new environment?
He's been struggling at school. He doesn't say much, but I can tell something's wrong. He seems quieter. He doesn't really want to talk to anybody about his day anymore.
Yeah, we don't really know how to help him. We try to ask, but he just kind of shuts down or says everything is fine.
That can be really hard as a parent, especially when you can tell something is off but don't know exactly what he's going through. We can work on ways to support him, including how to talk with him in a way that feels safe for him, and also looking at how to communicate with his school so he has the support there too. Moving forward, our goal would be to help your whole family feel more supportive and less overwhelmed. This includes reducing stress, building stronger connections with others, and helping you feel more confident navigating things here day to day.
That sounds really good. I think just some direction would help. Right now, it just feels like we're trying to figure everything out on our own.
Yeah, I just want things to feel better. I don't expect everything to change right away, but I hope that we're moving in the right direction.
And that's a really good place to start. Change doesn't have to happen all at once. We can take it step by step. You're already taking an important first step by coming in here today. It's clear that you both care a lot about your family and about supporting each other, and that's something we can continue to build on as we move forward together. Perfect.